Hello Zero Books readers. In this video, I'll be taking a circuitous route towards an announcement. We are aiming to introduce a new line of Zero Books titles. But before I tell you what these new books will contain, I want to ask you a question. A typical question. What is philosophy? Of course, philosophy literally means the love of wisdom. But these days, that definition seems to me to be a red herring, or a non-answer. If we accept that definition, we are naturally led to ask a new set of questions. Namely, what is love? And even more, what is wisdom? Before we begin a Socratic search for definitions, let's pause and consider another question that might pop up at this point.
What good is philosophy?
Why bother with an amorphous and abstract subject like philosophy, especially considering that simply to ask the question, what is philosophy, opens up a Pandora's box of troubles and confusions.
And I guess the first question has to be the following. Given everything that's on your plate, why do you bother with the philosophers?
Well, that's the most fascinating topic of all. It's what I grew up with and still am obsessed with.
So maybe instead of asking, what is philosophy, we might ask what topic Chomsky is referring to when he says that philosophy is the most fascinating topic of all topics. That is, what topic or topics do philosophers address? Well, there are 6. There's ontology, epistemology, ethics, aesthetics, logic, and politics. Let's take these topics one by one and define them by the sorts of questions that are asked under each category. Ontology asks what exists and what existence itself is. Epistemology asks what it is to know something exists or doesn't exist. Ethics asks what we ought to do, what things are wrong and what are right, and how we can tell the difference between the two. Aesthetics asks what is beautiful and or what is art. What sorts of existing things are in some way good to behold or experience, and what sorts of things should people make in order to create something that is good to experience or behold? Logic asks what is correct reasoning, and offers up the study of formal and informal systems aimed at the discovery or production of truth, or truthful ideas or statements. Finally, political philosophy asks how people should live together, how people should be organized or self-organized, what sorts of power relations should exist, what obligations people have to each other, and, less abstractly, how the state or government should operate. In my opinion, the first 2 branches of philosophy, ontology and epistemology, are the most significant, even if they are the most abstract. The questions, what does it mean to be or exist, alongside what is it to know, are perhaps the 2 questions you'd most likely ask after a night of heavy substance abuse.
It's all to do with colour, it's all to do with round, with shape. Everything's colour. Everything, is... Oh, it must be to do with orange. Not only with orange. Oh. I haven't seen colour. I live in a monochromatic world. I can't use colour.
Seriously though, philosophy isn't a psychedelic trip. It isn't just the experience of wonder, but it's also the attempt to reason about what, once you do start to wonder, doesn't make immediate sense anymore. The American pragmatist William James once said that philosophy was a peculiarly stubborn effort to think clearly. But thinking clearly is very difficult, and trying to remain rational about something as simple as what does it mean to exist, or how is knowledge possible, can lead people, and has led philosophers, to all sorts of crazy ideas. Thales decided that everything was water. Plato believed that in truth reality was a realm of abstract ideals where things like the perfect form of justice, existence, and possibly mud were set side by side. Descartes believed that there was a ghost in a machine. George Berkeley believed that we were all living inside the mind of God. And so it goes on and on. From nearly the beginning of philosophy, there's been a counter-tradition. Starting with the ancient Greek skeptic Pyrrho, there's been those amongst them who want to abandon the project in favor of enjoying life. These anti-philosophers attempted to be set apart from ideological concerns. They wanted neither to believe nor disbelieve things. Much later on, the Romantic tradition, following after the Age of Reason, would hold with a similar line, although one founded on an entirely different ethos or concern. Whereas skeptics advised people on how to make their way in the world without beliefs while following the laws and customs of society, the Romantics strived after freedom from an all too skeptical and rational society. According to the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the skeptic considered living without beliefs, quote, an achievement, and not merely the recovering of a native innocence lost to philosophical speculation. For Romantics like Rousseau, the rejection of society and refinement was the aim. But neither the skeptics nor the Romantics trusted the logic of their times.
Marx comes at us from a different direction. He has noticed that history is generally written by the sides that win. You may notice that terrorists are people who have not yet won, and after terrorists win, they are freedom fighters, and after you've forgotten they're freedom fighters, then they are called chancellors or whatever. Marx has noticed this, and he's also noticed the complicity of religion with this. And I don't want to, this is not about ragging on religion. This is about trying to explain why it could never be the safe harbor that it used to be. Because even for those of you with faith, and I haven't said I don't have it, the faith is rounded in by what? Complexity, suspicion, doubt. And I'm not talking now about doubt whether I doubt my faith. No, I mean doubt that even if you unconsciously don't doubt it, you're still screwed up. You're wrong. That's the problem of false consciousness. That's why it's severe. As you can be absolutely clear you have no doubt, and it could be just a pure, abstract cultural mechanism, and not you. And not you.
Some people, like the late Rick Roderick, would at least seem to place my favorite philosopher, Karl Marx, in with the Romantics. That is, if Marx posits the notion of false consciousness, as Roderick says he does, then any turn to reason will be a wrong turn. From this way of approaching Marx, we end up interpreting the line, the philosophers have so far only interpreted the world, the point is to change it, as a call to action supported not by reason or wisdom, but by intuition, feeling, and maybe even by resentment.
How were you different from your schoolmates when you were in TJ?
I don't know. Why don't you ask them? I didn't go to the high school prom, and...
Oh, you were asked, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. They didn't think... I don't think they wanted to take me. And I've been suffering ever since.
However, there is an American philosopher named Andrew Feenberg who approached Marx in a different way. In his book, Realizing Philosophy, Feenberg wrote that Marx considered philosophy to be the discipline in which the operative horizon of everyday life is raised to consciousness and subjected to rational criticism. On this basis, he argued that the conceptual dilemmas or antinomies of philosophy are symptomatic of deep contradictions in social life. His most challenging conclusion is the demand for a realization of philosophy through the practical resolution of these contradictions. That is, for Marx, even this antinomy between intuition and rationality is embedded in our social life and practices. And to overcome this contradiction, we must both understand the problem abstractly or philosophically and as a symptom of our cultural life. Rather than siding with feeling or thinking, we must put our thought into action and live through our ideas. So here at the end, I want to suggest that this Marxian definition of philosophy should be the starting point for a new series of books entitled Realizing Philosophy 101. It will be a walk through what's called the Western philosophical tradition from the perspective of Marx, and perhaps from the perspective of Western Marxism. The point will be to not only re-examine the canon in order to correct it, but to see how and to what extent the problems of, for instance, Socrates, arose from the life of Socrates, and how those problems continue on today, if they do. We will ask ourselves what it means to be living in Plato's cave today, for example, whether a Marxist critic would side with Plato's solution for the problem, and if not, how a Marxist might transform the problem even as he solves it. We will look at Descartes' mind-body problem, but with the extra dimension of a class analysis, or perhaps through the master and slave dialectic from Hegel.
They want to not only negate art, but in the way De Boer put it, also realize it, which is to say, make of daily life a creative, continuously original, delirious, ecstatic experience.
I'll be taking on this challenge to approach philosophy with the aim of realizing it, but the videos that will follow this one will each one be a call for submissions as well. Surely there are people out there, scholars, academics, social media intellectuals, who can both understand the assignment and take it on more effectively than I can here on YouTube. If you're interested in realizing philosophy, contact me through the Zero Books webpage or through my own website, that's douglaslane.com or douglaslane.net, to write a book that will help us realize philosophy.